Hello, all you eliminators and ex-liquidators out there, and welcome to Undeclared Bajor.
And two things this time.
That's right. Just come on, or whatever they say.
It's like, come on, Kamala. Yeah.
Right. Come on, you listening, Kamala? This is Undeclared Bajor, the very best Star Trek DS9 discussion podcast.
Yeah.
This side of the wormhole. My name is Fletcher. About to say hello is Data.
Hey.
Today, we're going to discuss and review Star Trek DS9, Season 6, Episode 10, The Magnificent Ferengi. Alternate title, Bridge of Moogies.
Huh. Wait, so what? I don't know that I'm getting the reference there.
You know, Bridge of Spies.
I do not know Bridge of Spies, no.
Oh, okay. It's about a prisoner exchange.
Oh, okay. See,
okay. Well,
I was expecting like Weekend at Moogie's or something.
I really didn't want to go there. And I already burned Sons of Moog.
It's true.
And I couldn't bring myself to do Moogie Nights. I was gonna call it Rebel Yelgren, but then I remembered that's a Billy Idol song, not an Iggy Pop song. So.
Oh, yeah, that doesn't work. I don't really know much Iggy Pop music.
I'm woefully uneducated. Anyway, we will be discussing spoilers up through this episode of Deep Space Nine, but not after this episode, so it's safe to watch along if this is your first experience with Star Trek Deep Space Nine. But we might spoil other stuff like Iggy Pop songs.
I'm going to spoil all of the endings to Iggy Pop songs.
Who is the passenger? Is it Iggy Pop?
I
don't know.
Let's see. I'm going to look at the lyrics for the passenger. I am a passenger, and I ride and I rides. It does sound like it is Iggy Pop.
Based on the lyrics, I think it might be.
Get into the car. We'll be the passenger. That doesn't seem grammatically correct, but...
Yeah.
Oh, the passenger, how he rides. Now the passenger has become someone else.
Yeah, what are we even talking about? The Magnificent Ferengi originally aired January 1st, 1998. Oh, I meant to look up stuff that's going on in 1998, but...
Let's see. January 1998. What happened? There were sporting events. There were some United Nations Security Council resolutions.
Ooh, yeah, who can forget the great United Nations Security Council resolution?
January 1st, 1998, Russia begins to circulate new rubles to stem inflation and promote confidence.
Oh yeah, remember those new rubles?
Mongolia
What a nostalgia trip we're on.
Mongolia switches from 46-hour work week to 40-hour work week.
Huh.
All California bars, clubs, and card rooms must be smoke-free.
Nice.
Yeah.
I bet a lot of people complained about that.
Actually, first I was looking at the first of these UN Security Council resolutions. Adopted unanimously on the 13th of January 1998. Resolution 1147 recalls previous resolutions on Croatia, authorizing the United Nations missions of observers in Prevlaka to continue monitoring the demilitarization in the Prevlaka Peninsula.
Oh, wow. Historic.
Yeah.
Historic
okay.
Continuation of the monitoring of militarization in Prevlaka.
Okay, do I recognize any of the names of these dead people? Not... Okay, on the first, you got John Bateman, American football player and coach. I don't...
Oh, no.
Jack Forsey, Canadian ice hockey player. Yeah, no, I'm not recognizing any of these names, really.
I think this episode might be the most interesting thing that happened in January 1998.
Quite possibly.
But it was written, shockingly, by Ira Stephen Bear and Hans Beimler.
Who would have thought?
And directed by Chip Chalmers.
Yeah, do you know Chip Chalmers?
I sure don't.
I had a good investigation about him before we recorded this episode. So he seems to have started his career out as second assistant director on Trapper John MD and continued doing that through the 80s on like the A-Team and several other shows I'm not familiar with. Ooh, I thought that said the Cosbys. It says the Colbys. And then he was the first assistant director on Miami Vice, and that's where he got his first directing gig in 1989, one episode of Miami Vice, which led to, in 1990, he started directing some episodes of Star Trek The Next Generation. He did 4 episodes, including such classics as Captain's Holiday and Ethics, but most relevantly, he directed The Wounded, which introduced the Cardassians.
Oh, wow.
This is his first episode of Deep Space Nine. He will direct one more episode of Star Trek, Take Me Out to the Holosuite.
Ah, yes.
We'll get there.
Yeah, death to the opposition.
Apparently, before he got into TV work, he was a magician in Los Angeles. So...
Oh, wow.
And currently, however, currently the Memory Alpha is updated. He is teaching film at Florida State University. So if you guys want to ask him all about the magnificent Ferengi, head on down to Florida State.
Right. If any of you are this guy's student, demand that he do a lecture about the magnificent Ferengi or whatever.
It's probably like half of a semester on the magnificent Ferengi.
Right.
The other half is Miami Vice.
Every 5 minutes, it's like, well, when I directed the magnificent Ferengi, and you're like, oh my god, here we go again.
Yep.
Sierra Lofton is not in this episode, and neither, as far as I could tell, is Michael Dorn.
Nope.
So
Worf does not show up, although he is briefly mentioned. Also, I mean, like, Dax, O'Brien, Bashir, and Odo are only in the teaser and show up not again. So, like, the episode does not have much of the main cast.
Right. So, it seems to be a nice, chill, happy day in Quark's bar. Lita attends bar while a full complement of customers make pleasant chit-chat over drinks. Even Odo is walking around schmoozing, I assume. And things are about to get even better. For who should walk in but the man himself, Quark, with 3 uniformed Bajorans in tow, each carrying a heavy-looking box. Quark announces to the whole bar that he has acquired 3 crates of syrup. Of squill. Well, they're not so much crates as Rubbermaid boxes I got from Walmart, but same thing.
Gotta put your syrup of squill in something.
Yeah, but that's right, everyone. Get ready to fry up some groat cakes. Because today, the squill is going to flow.
So are groat cakes like pancakes, or?
You have the same information I have. So, is there no memory alpha for groat cakes?
I'm looking. Groat cakes. Here we go. Let's see. Groat cakes were a Bajoran breakfast food consisting of groat and other ingredients. Particularly good when topped with syrup of squill. Okay, hold on. Groat also has an article. Hold on. A groat was a Cardassian foodstuff that, among other things, served as the base for groat cakes. Odo once remarked of Ferengi, they would sell their own flesh and blood for a Cardassian groat.
Is it possible that maybe that kind of groat and the groat in groat cakes are 2 different things?
I don't know. There's one last entry, I guess, spoiler. In some future episode, Quark comes to Odo's office to speak with him about a missing shipment of groat clusters.
Huh.
Oh, okay, here we go. Here. According to the Star Trek Encyclopedia, 4th edition, groat was the, quote, grain of a cereal grass widely cultivated on Bajor and providing a flour for baked goods such as bread and pastries.
Okay. So, no sign if it's related to Cardassian groats or not.
Oh, wait. And then there's a real-life definition for groat. Groats are the hulled kernels of various cereal grains, such as oat, wheat, rye, and barley.
Okay. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So, but on Bajor, it's its own separate kind of...
Apparently, yeah.
Okay. Well, this is the kind of deep dive you get on this podcast.
It's true, yep. I mean, while we're on the subject,
Of groats.
Syrup of Squill.
Oh, okay.
No, yeah, while we're here, Syrup of Squill and the later mention of Hippocat root features are both taken from the 1934 Norman Z. MacLeod movie It's a Gift, starring comedian W.C. Field. So they stole the names of those things directly from a 1934 movie that Ira Stephen Bear probably saw on TV the night before.
Yep. 100%.
Also, in the real world, Squill liquid extract is an alcoholic preparation derived from a flowering plant native to Europe, Asia, and Africa. An ingredient in cough medicines.
Ah. And at the risk of going down a further rabbit hole, isn't Hippocac the stuff that you drink to throw up?
That's Ipecac, and is spelled very differently, apparently.
Okay. Never mind then. So anyway, Odo is like, wow, is the drought on Balankar over? Oh, there never was a drought, says Quark. It was all a ruse by the Balankar Trade Consortium, which I assume is called Squillpeck, to manipulate the price of squill syrup. Presumably they were also assisted by the entire population of the planet Balankar to maintain the secrecy.
They just cut off all communication with outside the planet.
If anybody asks you, it hasn't rained in a really long time.
I love Lita's like, that's like really dishonest. And Quark's like, oh yeah, isn't it great?
Everybody gathers around to listen to Quark tell his grand tale of mercantile cunning. You see, Quark once did business with the nephew of the cousin of the stepsister of a friend of the secretary of the chief accountant of Squillpeck. And rumor came through this chain of relations to Quark's ever-open ears that the accountant had bought a very nice pair of Ferengi rain slippers. Now, it may rain every once in a while, even during a drought, but enough to invest in a high-quality pair of Ferengi rain slippers? I think not. Opportunity? Blackmail.
I do like, because doesn't it make complete sense that the Ferengi make great rain slippers, since apparently always rains on Ferenginar. It's just a really nice little note.
Yep. Quark tells Odo and the rest of the bar how he met with the accountant and threatened to expose him if the scheme if he didn't fork over some squill, possibly exposing himself to extortion charges, along with conspiracy and obstruction of justice. But the whole bar seems impressed with the story, so Odo decides to let it go.
I mean, if the whole planet is in on it, like, isn't it their justice that, like, he's not obstructing it? Apparently, they're good with it.
True. We don't know, like, what the legal situation is on this planet, so.
Okay, well, that's true. Yeah, but no, I love that he blackmails the guy by being like, "I'll reveal this information if you don't do it," and then the moment he gets the boxes, he reveals that information to everyone.
But he only revealed it to those people, not the whole Alpha Quadrant, so.
Yeah, I'm sure none of them will mention it.
Right. Anyway, the whole bar applauds this story. They really liked the story of him blackmailing this guy.
I think they just want some squill.
Right? They're like, bring out the squill. Quark is on a roll and gets ready to tell about another one of his daring exploits. But his thunder is stolen when Dax, Bashir, and O'Brien just barge in and start bragging about their first successful reconnaissance mission into Dominion territory. Odo reminds Quark, you're not on Ferenginar. Earning profit isn't considered as heroic.
Yeah, no one cares.
Then a waiter comes over and whispers into Quark's ear so that Quark can immediately repeat to us what he just said. Was this a super sleazy trick to keep from having to pay that actor for speaking a line? I'm sure they wouldn't stoop so low. Anyway, the Nagus wants to talk to Quark. Wallace Shawn's going to be in this episode? You say excitedly. No, calm down.
This is, apparently, he is the only recurring Ferengi character not to show up in this episode. And in fact, the original version of the episode, it was the Nagus that was kidnapped, but they couldn't get Wallace Shawn, so they had to change that.
That would make a lot more sense, but...
Wouldn't
the episode would be way better with Wallace Shawn in it.
Yeah,
but what episode wouldn't?
Exactly. Yeah, that's every episode. But yeah, it's like, we never get an explanation of why the Dominion would care enough to kidnap Moogie.
Right. Well, I mean, she's the girlfriend of the Grand Nagus, so...
Apparently this is somewhat secret. I don't know. Do they have like a changeling infiltrator on Ferenginar, like trying to figure out how this economy thing works? And
I don't know. Maybe they thought that the Nagus was going to be there, and they were going to kidnap him and changeling him, but he wasn't on the ship, so they were like, "Oh, what do we do now?" But anyway. Yeah, we don't hear this actual conversation because Wallace Shawn isn't in the episode. We just hear the substance of the phone call when Quark goes to tell Rom about it. So, it's bad news. Quark and Rom's beloved Moogie has passed into the hands of the Dominion, who are holding her prisoner. And the Nagus wants Quark to go rescue her. Normally, Quark wouldn't be too motivated to get his mother back, but the Nagus offered a 50 bar of Latinum reward.
Yeah, that put it over the top.
Right. Okay, I guess I'll go rescue my mother. As they crawl through the bowels of the station, Quark explains the details to Rom, whom he shanghais into helping with the rescue. For an even split of the 50 bars of Latinum, minus a reasonable finder's fee, of course.
Which Rom says is 10, but, I mean, it really comes... If you were going to split evenly and then you took a finder's fee, it would really be 5. So, maybe that's more reasonable, I don't know.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Moogie was on her way back from Vulcan, we learn, where she was getting cosmetic ear surgery, and the Dominion captured her transport for some reason.
I guess the Vulcans are somehow more of an expert on cosmetic ear surgery on Ferengi than the surgeons on Ferenginar. I don't know.
Well, my theory is that Zek was so impressed with the brain-improving power of the Vulcan doctors that he sent Moogie there to have these amazing doctors also lift her ears or whatever.
I figured maybe, like, the Vulcans will do it for free.
Oh, yeah, that too. He's like, wait, you don't even charge? Oh, and also I forgot to tell you, says Quark, up until now, but Moogie is dating the Nagus. So he never thought to mention that.
Yeah, it was like, oh, we have to bring Rom up to date real quick on the whole last time that Moogie was here.
Right. So they pause for a moment to try to exit the plasma conduits, but are a little surprised to find that they've somehow wound up in Sisko's office. They apologize and turn around, and Sisko's like, I didn't even know that was a door.
It's such a random bit to put in here. Like, there was no reason for them to have the conversation while crawling through tubes, but it's a fun little bit of business.
Once they find a proper exit, Quark and Rom get back to planning. They're not exactly experts in prisoner extraction, so they'll need help. And Quark wants it to be an all-Ferengi team, because he wants to use this situation to make a point about stereotypes.
Take that, Odo.
Yeah. And in true Ferengi fashion, let's tell the other people that the reward is only 20 bars. So they get to recruiting. First up, Nog. Nog isn't interested until they offer to make him Strategic Operations Officer. Then his desire to one-up Worf changes his mind.
It is nice, heartwarming even, to see how little Nog cares about his grandmother.
He's like, I'm busy. I have a job. I can't be bothered.
He is in Starfleet, so it is a little bit weird that he can just like run off on some sort of like paramilitary thing. But
people do this all the time. I mean, Dax went off and like murdered the albino, and ate his heart. So
yeah.
So Nog asks how many are in the team. And in a bit that I assume is from the original Magnificent Seven movie, Quark holds up 2 fingers, and then Nog shakes his head and holds up 3.
Okay, so this is where this gets weird.
Okay.
Because yes, the fingers thing is from the Magnificent Seven.
Okay.
But to take a step back from that, the first note is, although the episode title and the use of the counting fingers to count up team members are obvious references to the classic 1960 John Sturges film The Magnificent Seven, which in itself is a remake of Akira Kurosawa's seminal 1954 film The Seven Samurai. The writers say that any similarity between the film and the episode is coincidental.
Oh, of course.
We never really thought about The Magnificent Seven at all when we were writing. It had nothing to do with the episode had nothing to do with the film in terms of plot or structure. Nothing. Period. And then, as if in direct contrast, a later note says, despite the writer's claim that the episode had nothing to do with the Seven Samurai or the Magnificent Seven, both Armin Shimmerman and Max Grodenchik studied the films prior to shooting their scenes. From the Magnificent Seven, Grodenchik saw Rom as a, quote, wimpy Steve McQueen, with Shimmerman seeing Quark as in the Yul Brynner role. And they inserted the bit of business with the counting on their fingers from the movie. That was their idea, according to this note. So,
So, I don't know. I don't know why anybody would assume that this episode, written by a guy who notoriously loves to rip off Western movies for his stories, would do a ripoff of The Magnificent Seven. But, although it is true, this is a very unsimilar plot to The Magnificent Seven, so, other than gathering 6 Ferengi to do a job. All I really know about The Magnificent Seven is it has one of my favorite lines in movie history. If God did not want them sheared, he should not have made them sheep.
Okay, yeah.
Eli Wallach. So, yeah. Next recruit, Lek. Described by Quark as not your typical Ferengi. He answers the phone, sharpening a knife. So maybe that's a good sign.
Sure.
And I kind of wonder if he just always has a knife next to the phone so that he can be sharpening it when he picks it up.
Oh, he absolutely should. It's good for his image, like, as an eliminator.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Lek asks Quark who he wants eliminated, and Quark says nobody. Lek says, then why do you want an eliminator? And then Rom wants to know what an eliminator is. Which, just make the slightest leap of intuition, Rom. I think you'll get there.
I like the episode feels no need to explain that to us because they're like, audience, you're smarter than Rom. You know.
Right.
But Rom never will.
Who do you want eliminated? Gee, I wonder what that could mean. This guy, sharpening a knife.
The note on here says that all Ferengi seen in this episode have been featured on the series before. Aside from obvious recurring characters, Gala appeared in Business as Usual. Yeah, we know that. But Lek was an unnamed Ferengi seen exiting the chamber of the Grand Nagus in Ferengi love songs.
Ah.
So,
did he have any lines?
Yeah, I did they just bring the actor back? So they're like, hey, this guy's been a Ferengi before. We have his head mold. It's all good.
Right.
Or is the implication now that the Grand Nagus was arranging to have someone assassinated?
Oh, I'm sure he was. That's a total Nagus move. So, like Nog, Lek isn't interested at first. And he doesn't really care about Latinum, which is shocking. But he changes his mind when Quark tells him they'll be going up against the Dominion. This changes Lek's demeanor dramatically. You see, for Lek, the action is the juice. So if you recognize that movie quote, put it in the comments. I'm not going to tell you what it is. This is my trick to get people to comment on the videos. So yes, Lek is in. Rom smiles and holds up 4 fingers. And then we head to Federation Prison for our next candidate, Cousin Gala, who has apparently managed to avoid that kill squad that was chasing after him.
I mean, it's impressive, yeah.
Yeah.
And also he spent all of his Latinum, like he's broke. Like, didn't this dude own a moon?
Right. Oh, how they fall. And is he in prison for being a ruthless interplanetary arms dealer? No, he's in prison for vagrancy on Talos 6. He vows revenge against Quark, but his bluff is immediately called when the force field to his cell comes down, and it's revealed that Quark paid his fine. This raises the question, paid the fine to whom? This is a Federation prison. Also, how is vagrancy a crime in the Federation? Wouldn't they,
Yeah, that's messed up.
Wouldn't they take him to a homeless shelter or something? I think I'm starting to see some cracks in this perfect Federation society.
Does the Federation have a bunch of those, like, anti-homeless benches and stuff all over the place? Like,
right.
Jeez.
It's actually a really cruel place when you think about it. I might call that my nitpick of the week. Anyway, Gala's in. Quark and Rom hold up 5 fingers.
They needed the Ocean's 11. It's like, you think we need one more? You think we need one more? All right, we'll get one more.
So they all meet up at the bar where Nog goes over his plan of strategic operations. But there's a hang-up when Lek won't call him sir. And then a significant flaw in their plan comes to light, which is that they don't have a ship. Suddenly someone starts clapping from the corner of the bar, where he was lurking the whole time.
Or something, yeah.
Right. It's Brunt, formerly FCA. And maybe he'll be back in the FCA if he does something to win back the favor of the Nagus. Something like save the Nagus' girlfriend.
He's still got that big, like, bar of latinum on a chain around his neck, which I'd previously thought might be some, like, you know, like, indicator of office that he was a liquidator and that's how you knew. But no, I guess it's just, like, he's got, like, a Flava Flav clock thing, except a Ferengi version of it.
Or maybe it's just like we were talking about with Intendant Kira, just still wearing her uniform. Like,
maybe he just liked it that much.
Yeah, but this is just the way he likes to make an entrance. He'll beam into your closet. He'll just kind of like stand in the corner of your bar and hope you don't notice him just standing over there as you come in and start planning.
That would have been awkward. It's like, hey, what are you doing there? Oh man, my entrance is ruined.
Right. And he listened for like the perfect opportunity to do his clap entrance thing. So maybe if I was Chip Chalmers, I would have thought a little bit harder about how to do that. But
well, apparently, like, Chip Chalmers is dedicated. There's a note in here that says, since this was the first episode of the series he directed and he'd never dealt with the Ferengi before, he watched every Ferengi episode of Next Generation and Deep Space Nine up to this point to get up to speed on the Ferengi, as well as reading the 2 books that were out, The Ferengi Rules of Acquisition and Legends of the Ferengi. So, before he directed the episode. So this guy was going all in on this thing.
Yeah. So at first, nobody wants to include Brunt. But say what you like about the Ferengi, they're not too proud to change their minds when new information comes to light. And it just so happens that Brunt has a ship. So now they're 6. I should have called the episode like Quark's 6 or something like that.
Ooh. Yeah. Missed opportunities.
Yeah. They get to work training in the holosuite. Or was that supposed to be a surprise reveal? I don't know. Whatever. I've watched enough Star Trek that I immediately knew what was going on.
You mean you didn't believe that Moogie had been murdered, like,
right.
kind of out of nowhere in the middle of the episode about rescuing her?
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, it soon becomes obvious that this group's combat effectiveness is pretty low. Perhaps negative, when you factor in the fact that Lek mercy killed the hostage.
Okay, but I do have to say that I expected the Eliminator to maybe be able to handle a gun better than we're shown that he can do, but the man is hell on wheels with throwing a knife.
Uh-huh.
So you gotta give him some credit for that.
Yeah.
He needs more than one, though. Like, he only ever seems to have the one.
You know, he's just dying for that one opportunity to throw a knife.
Yep.
It's what he lives for. But yeah, they all suck, so Quark is frustrated and he kicks everyone out.
I mean, they are Ferengi. I feel like buy something to, like we've seen in this very show, people buy like drones that are just like murder everybody.
Uh-huh.
Like let's invest in some murder assisting things for this mission. I'm just saying.
Yeah, get one of those Ferengi smell bombs.
Ooh, yeah.
And make it smell Jem'Hadar.
Yeah.
But yeah, later Quark laments to Rom that just a few days ago he was the king of Squill. And this gives Rom an idea. The Ferengi aren't known for their amazing battle skills. The thing they excel at is making deals. Elaborate, says Quark. Well, you see, the Dominion has something we want. If we were to find something the Dominion wants, and would get more utility out of than holding our mother, and from which we would get less utility than having our mother alive and free, then all parties would be motivated to make an exchange. A deal, to coin a term.
How was this not the Grand Nagus and Quark's first instinct?
Right. How can you call yourself a Ferengi if this was not your first thought? Or at least to offer like a ransom or something.
Yeah, right? Like, offer some money. The fact that this has to come from Rom is frankly bizarre.
Yeah. I think this might actually be my nitpick of the week.
Fair.
But yeah, so they get to work making a deal. That is to say, getting Captain Sisko to make a deal for them. But they had the idea to make a deal, so... Anyway, Quark has some suction with Kira after rescuing her from getting executed by Odo's girlfriend that one time.
Yep.
So she convinces Sisko to hand over to Quark a Dominion prisoner to exchange for Moogie. And who is that prisoner? Why, it's the lovable Kevin. That most Vorta of all Vortas.
Really, like, the way that she looks at him when she's like, I'm paying you back or whatever. I was like, she has never been so friendly to Quark. Like, she hates Quark. This is impressive.
Yeah. I think she's really been working on, like, because we saw her give Quark credit for the whole sniffing out fake Brile that one time.
Oh, that's true too. Yeah.
I think she's putting in an effort, and
good for her.
Good for her. But yeah, is this a horrible betrayal of the deal that Kevin made with Captain Sisko and Rocks and Shoals, to which the captain likely owes his very life? Who cares?
I mean, okay, you have to remember that it wasn't so much Kevin offering them a deal as being like, here's the thing, I'm going to do this either way, and so you can take me with you, or you can die. Whatever. Like, this is not a agreement made in, like, good faith. This is at gunpoint agreement, so I'm not faulting Sisko for, and I mean, they didn't promise him that he would be safe forever. That was what he thought. He's like, I'll get to live out the war in a cushy Federation prison. It's not any Sisko's fault that he assumed that.
Still, I don't know if this is the way we want to be treating defectors. That kind of discourages that.
Well, you're not wrong about that part, yeah.
Yeah, Starfleet intelligence is done interrogating him, so it's back to the Dominion for you for certain execution. Sure, we'd be happy to send a small unarmed ship to Deep Space Nine to exchange our civilian prisoner for Kevin, the Dominion negotiator starts to say, I assume. But before he finishes, Quark cuts him off and is like, how about we meet at a creepy, remote, abandoned space station? Oh yeah, let's do that, says the Dominion.
It's a real get to how they decided to make this go down, but whatever.
Right. It's just like in Breaking Bad. It's like this is a non-criminal's idea of a meet. So everybody piles into Brunt's little ship, and they're off to the Trevis system. Kevin looks at Brunt and is like, "Hey, you look familiar."
They do have the fun little moment of like, why are we even here at this point? Like,
right?
We were put together as like a mercenary squad, and now we're just making a deal. But I mean, you guys weren't good at that job, so you're Ferengi. Just shut up and take the money. Like, what are you complaining about?
If I was Quark, I would have cut those guys out immediately. But
right, yeah,
yeah. Soon they're approaching Impak Nor in all its sideways glory. Nog gives him a little tour, I bet, where he's like, and that's where Garrick tied me up and almost killed me.
Creepily fondled me, or whatever it was.
Right. Some stuff happened there I don't want to talk about. They set up base camp in the infirmary, where they find some still functional medical equipment, which will conveniently come in handy later. Nog takes charge, getting things prepared for the exchange. Rom is proud to see his son, the soldier, in action, but Quark is distraught that Starfleet has corrupted Nog so much that he won't even take a bribe to do his job. They all turn in for the night, which means everybody's sleeping head to toe under blankets like they're those comet cult people or whatever. But everybody is woken up by the sound of Cousin Gala screaming. He fell asleep on guard duty, and Kevin escaped.
I mean, I get that, he was an arms salesman. He's a salesperson, not a soldier or mercenary or whatever. He's like, I don't even know how to use the guns. I just sold them. But this is pretty bad that you're this bad at guarding. Like, this is real basic skill set. Don't fall asleep during your turn on. And there's 6 of these guys. Each of their turns cannot be that long if they are all taking a watch. So this is really pathetic of Cousin Gala. And throughout this episode, I'm starting to wonder, like, how he ever became such a successful businessman, because he kind of sucks at things.
This is true. Although, to be fair, it's hard to stay awake when you're tired. Which is why you should never drive tired. But yeah, luckily Quark planned ahead for this eventuality and had Rom pull all the spark plugs out of the ship so Kevin couldn't steal it, or the induction matrix or whatever.
Which leads to my favorite line of the episode, where he's like, well, then why did you bother chasing me? He's all out of breath, like, well, sometimes my brother messes up.
Right. But then, right when they've gotten Kevin back in custody, the "it's time to enter the code and push the button" alarm from Lost starts sounding.
Apparently what this actually is the red alert sound from Intrepid-class starships, which I assume means that's used on Voyager.
Sure.
But, like, pitched up.
Ah. Well, it means the Dominion is here. "To the infirmary!" bellows Quark. They all sprint to the infirmary, which takes, like, a full minute of screen time, but whatever. Or, it felt like it anyway. And they hunker down. Nog peeks outside and sees that there are a zillion Jem'Hadar on the promenade. They don't know what to do until they remember the Dominion is supposed to be there. That's the whole point. They're making an exchange. So Quark, Rom, and Nog go out to negotiate with the Vorta of this group, who I can't believe I didn't realize was played by Iggy Pop, even though I had noticed his name in the credits.
Like, when is Iggy Pop going to show up? Well,
right.
So apparently it's not just you. So the note in here is Iggy Pop as Yelgren was the realization of a personal goal of Ira Stephen Bear, who was a fan of the musician. Bear had tried to cast him as Grady back in Past Tense Part 2, but their conflicting schedules made that impossible. Although he was thrilled to work with Pop, he was a little annoyed at himself for casting him as a Vorta. He says, his physicality is certainly part of who he is, and unfortunately, we cast him as a Vorta, one of the most immobile of characters. Ultimately, however, Bear felt that Pop brought something wonderful to the role. He really got that demented quality that Vorta have, like Weyoun. Think Caligula. He was just a delight.
Yeah, I guess I think we learned today that Iggy Pop is a great actor.
Yeah, he's doing a good job.
Although, they should have just had him strutting around, like, shirtless.
A shirtless Vorta. That would, okay. Yeah.
So Quark proposes terms for the exchange. Iggy Pop should tell all his people except 2 Jem'Hadar to get back on their ship and fly back to Dominion space at maximum warp. Kevin says that would leave him stranded, and Quark says only for a few days, although he plans on making the exchange in just half an hour, so I don't know why anyone thinks it'll take a few days for the ship to turn around and come back. Kevin makes a counteroffer. I'll just send in the Jem'Hadar to kill you and take Kevin. Well then, we'll just execute him, says Quark. I mean, I assume since you came all this way, you want him alive. Ah yes, says Iggy Pop. I hadn't thought of that incredibly obvious outcome. You truly are a cunning people. Perhaps one day you will join the Dominion.
I do like that you get a consistency here of, just like Weyoun does, he's trying to be like, he's putting out those feelers about, like, we could be friends, the Dominion and you.
Right.
Although Yelgren seems way less enthusiastic about it than Weyoun usually is.
Right. I just like his whole vibe of, he's just like, okay, whatever we're doing, let's just do it.
He is so ready to be out of here from the moment he set foot on the station.
He's just like, he's just rolling with it, whatever, and just kind of like making sarcastic comments all the time.
Yep.
Before they make the exchange, Nog makes a good point. We need to make sure that's the real Moogie and not a changeling. So he cuts Moogie's hand to give her a blood test, and she passes. And then Moogie does a changeling test of her own on Nog by punching him in the head over and over, which Rom points out is not a very effective changeling test.
Yeah, no. Moogie, you're doing it all wrong. And she's like, oh, you're right. Give me the knife.
Yep. But Quark breaks it up right as Moogie tries to grab that knife. And Yelgren's like, yeah, we were going to do a changeling infiltrator, but nobody wanted the assignment of having sex with a Nagist, so we abandoned that. All the Ferengi celebrate in the infirmary. Everybody can't wait to get home to Ferenginar with its rotting vegetation and rivers of muck.
Sure.
But Rom lets slip that the actual reward is 50 bars of latinum, not 20. And this makes everyone angry.
Rom contributes in lots of positive ways to this mission, but he's still Rom, so we should have known this was coming.
Yeah, and also, I want to point out, I guess Rom is back to his engineering job on Deep Space Nine. He did not go full-time at Starfleet Intelligence.
No.
So make of that what you will. So Cousin Gala is so mad he tries to shoot Quark, but he winds up hitting Kevin instead. With his dying breath, Kevin curses the entire Ferengi race.
Which
then joins his blessed clone ancestors in Vortala or whatever.
This is, once again, like, we should have left Cousin Gala behind. He has contributed in no positive way to this entire thing.
Yeah.
Just left him in vagrancy jail.
Right. Hindsight is 20/20.
Yeah.
Frankly, when you're recruiting a guy out of vagrancy jail, I think maybe you need to think, it's like, okay, what do we stand to gain from this?
I mean, you're not wrong.
With their one piece of leverage gone, the Ferengi begin brainstorming ways to run away. But Quark gives a rousing speech about the famous Battle of Prexnak, when 10 Ferengi faced off against 273 Litasians. They all died, but at least they didn't run away.
Darn Litasians.
Right. I assume they're the brutal enemy of the Ferengi that we've never heard of before.
I think there's actually, I was looking at that Legends of the Ferengi book to see what that was about, and apparently there is a mention in this book about the Litasians. Let's see. References to the book would later be mentioned in the television series, including Eelwasser and Sluggo Cola. So those things were in the book before they showed up in the show.
Huh.
And the Litasians, I guess, were also mentioned in the book first.
Okay.
Oh, Ira Stephen Bear and Robert Hewitt Wolf wrote the book.
Do we have any information about the Litasians?
Let's see. A spacefaring race from the planet Litasia, once involved in a conflict with the Ferengi, which lasted for 5 years. Formal first contact between them and the Ferengi took place on the Plateau of Drool on their homeworld. It was at this meeting where the, quote, SAC incident happened, which began the conflict. Hold on, looking up SAC incident. During this initial diplomatic meeting, after the Ferengi Alliance made a gift to the Litasians of diamond-encrusted latinum bust of Grand Nagus Zek, well, this can't have been that long ago.
Right.
The Litasians offered Zek an empty sack. The Litasians meant this as a gesture to indicate that they had nothing to give Zek that he might want, and any gift would insult his dignity. This prompted Zek to reply, "Dignity in an empty sack is worth the sack," which later became the 109th rule of acquisition. Is this the same Grand Nagus Zek, or is this like
yeah, maybe it's Zek? Yeah, it's a previous Zek, you know.
No, this seems, when I go to the link here, it seems to be the same Zek. Okay, well, that's good to know that this legendary battle was within the lifetime of the current Grand Nagus. Right.
Although Ferengi lived for a long time, right? So
the Litasian homeworld suffered considerable damage during their conflict with the Ferengi, and after it was over, the Litasian Redevelopment Fund was created by the Ferengi to help rebuild, as well as to turn their world into a resort.
Okay, wow, there is a lot of information about Litasia.
Yeah.
So anyway, Lek gets right into the spirit after this speech. He's like, yeah, let's do it for Moogie, and let's do it for the Nagus. Everybody else wants money, though.
Well, yeah.
They want their equal share of the 50 bars. And Quark is like, it all comes down to profit with you people. And they're like, yeah, we're Ferengi. And he's like, hell yeah, we are. But he still holds on to his finder's fee.
Fair.
Because he's also a Ferengi.
I mean, he found it. The Nagus
He
came
found it
directly to him.
Yeah.
But
he found it when the Nagus called him. So.
Yeah.
So Nog put some neurostimulators on Kevin to make sure he's really dead. And this causes the corpse of Kevin to slap Nog.
Yep.
This gives Nog an idea. An engineering idea. Quark goes out to stall Iggy Pop while Nog puts his plan into action. Iggy Pop, who earlier was willing to wait out a couple of days on the station, is now incredibly impatient to make the exchange.
Well, yeah, he wants the Ferengi to leave. They're annoying. What can I say?
So just leave me here with Kevin in peace. Quark also proposes making the exchange outside the airlock to his ship. Please don't find this sudden change of plan suspicious.
I just like the way he's like, you understand. And Yelgren's like, he says, yes, I do understand, in a way that at first makes me think that he's like being super sarcastic, but then he's like, but your lack of trust is very distressing to me or whatever. It's like, oh, okay, no, he gets it. It's just, okay.
He's like, yeah, I understand. I totally was going to ambush you. But
yeah, we were probably going to kill you, but
right.
I get it.
But Nog has gotten it to work. He has turned the body into Kevin, or the body of Kevin, into a grim, remote-controlled monstrosity. After Ishka gives Iggy Pop some financial advice, the exchange is on. They do the classic let the prisoners go at the same time routine. Moogie makes it. Kevin starts walking into a wall. Iggy Pop realizes the setup and orders the Jem'Hadar to stop them, but the Ferengi Commando Squad jumps out. Lek throwing knives one Jem'Hadar, Rom shoots the other. Kevin is left defenseless.
You mean Yelgren?
Yes, Yelgren. I wrote Kevin.
Apparently,
Kevin is also defenseless.
Well, yeah, that's fair. This is the only episode in which Rom kills someone. So.
Oh, wow.
There you go.
And he doesn't react like Quark did.
No.
That one time. He's fine with it.
Yeah, he's good. He's probably killed lots of people just off screen. You know?
Right.
In his top secret work for Federation intelligence.
Right. Yeah, he's an assassin for Section 31.
What's that?
Oh,
Section who now?
Yeah, Kevin keeps walking into the wall because Nog can't turn him off. Ha 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 ha.
It's so funny the way that we like. I'm trying to say defaced. What do you call it?
Desecrated.
Yes, the way they desecrated the corpse. Ha ha ha.
Right. The Ferengi take Iggy Pop as a prisoner to give as a gift to Starfleet as a thank you for Kevin. Lex says this was the stupidest operation he's ever seen, and to give him a call if they ever want to do it again. Rom asks Quark what it feels like to be a hero, and Quark says, you tell me, and Rom says, it feels good. And they have a good laugh and head back to the ship. The camera pans over, and we see the desecration of Kevin continue as his corpse walks into the wall over and over.
For all eternity.
The end.
I'm sure we'll see Lek many more times. There's a note.
New series regular.
Yeah, I mean, so there's a note from Jeffrey Combs in here. He enjoyed this episode. He says, as far as behind the scenes, I would say that was the most fun because you had 7 character actors in Ferengi makeup. Some of the things we were doing was just sitting around waiting for the camera to roll. Some of the dialogue was really cool. It was great fun. I made some friends on that show. Josh Pace and Hamilton Camp. I thought those guys would come back. They just ran out of time in terms of doing everything they wanted to do. I'm sure they would have loved to have the magnificent Ferengi return. So, could have been a recurring gig.
Sure. Just more episodes of them like teaming up and then being a totally ineffective team.
Yeah.
And like half of them not doing anything.
Why did we invite Gala yet again? I don't know.
We got to include him. He's just one of the gang at this point. He's more like a mascot than anything else.
You know, the Magnificent Ferengi reunion tour. You can't leave him out. Directly after the note about how the plot really, like, they didn't it wasn't related to the Magnificent Seven at all. The next note is, the episode's plot does, however, bear a strong partial resemblance to that of the 1989 film Weekend at Bernie's. So, there you go.
I guess in that one aspect.
Yeah. I was like, there's one small piece, yeah.
I've never actually watched Weekend at Bernie's, and I don't plan to for my entire life, so...
You know, I watched Weekend at Bernie's a few times when I was a kid, and was amused by it. Weekend at Bernie's 2 is where it starts to get weird, though.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like, a voodoo priestess turns the Bernie corpse into, like, a zombie, kinda. And so then he really is walking around on his own, but he's still, like, you know, not alive. It's so weird.
That sounds very culturally aware.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was... I guess that would have been like the early 90s for the second
right.
one. So, you know, what are you going to
do?
It
was the 90s. Yeah, that's a movie I saw at the video store all the time. And I said, that looks stupid. I never want to watch that. And that's one of my childhood dreams that has come true. So
someday someone's going to force you to watch Weekend at Bernie's and you'll be very sad.
Yeah, well, that day is not this day.
The next note, according to Ira Stephen Bear, although the episode is primarily a comedy, like the episode Family Business, it was an attempt to do something a little more serious with the Ferengi. He says, this whole thing about heroism in the episode, the question of what is a hero and what value does that have, basically had to do with the fact that the Ferengi needed to show that they could be heroes.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I guess it was a fun little exploration of that.
Yeah.
Or so, you know, the Ferengi have different ideas of, you know, they have, their heroes are different kinds of heroes. And so, yeah.
Except for those 10 guys at the Battle of whatever.
Right. So, you know, they're trying out this new thing, and they realize, of course, we got to do this the Ferengi way.
Yeah, that was a good turn in the episode. I liked that.
Right.
Where it's like, we got to be us.
Even though they didn't necessarily actually do anything super Ferengi. I mean, they just kind of got Kevin in, I guess, the part where Quark negotiated with Yelgren that one time. But...
And they tried to make it very Western and dramatic leading up to that, with like the three of them stepping out dramatically onto the promenade and...
Right, yeah.
So
it was definitely like, you know, the walking into town or walking into the canyon with all the bad guys all around you. Yeah.
It reminded me of, there's a scene in Kelly's Heroes very much like that, with like the three guys stepping out. But I'm sure that was probably even a take on some Westerns.
Sure.
Let's see. Armin Shimmerman comments that this episode was a hoot. We were surrounded by these wonderful comedic actors playing other Ferengi, Jeff Combs, Josh Pace, Hamilton Camp, and Cecily Adams. I stood back half a step and let them do their stuff and just responded to their antics because they were so funny. I can't tell you what a treat it was to watch each of these truly talented performers chew up more scenery than I'd ever seen chewed before and make it all work beautifully.
There wasn't any scenery left.
Nope, they nommed it all. I do like, I assume that part of the reason for choosing Empok Nor is because it's just the Deep Space Nine set redressed. So they're like, hey, we can cheap out on this a little bit as opposed to going anywhere else.
You're telling me there's not a standalone Empok Nor set that's just been gathering dust this whole time?
I don't know that I realized this, but this is the first episode in which Quark, Rom, Nog, and Ishka all appear. So the whole family's together for the first time.
Oh, wow. All right.
And I was looking up some information on Yelgren on the wiki, and there's not that much, even if you go into... I was thinking, like, oh, does he show up in a novel later or something? So I went and looked at Memory Beta, but he does not. There's a couple of interesting bits in here. There's some expanded stuff about how much Ira Stephen Bear loves Iggy Pop, where it says that he made a point of visiting the set during production of this episode, which was something of a rarity due to his busy schedule. He says, for Iggy, I would not be denied. I was a happy boy.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, there you go. And then there is a Star Trek customizable card game card of Yelgren, although they seem to spell his name differently than it's spelled in the episode. It calls him a matter-of-fact Vorta, who met a disorganized group of Ferengi aboard Empok Nor. He's a VIP whose skills include diplomacy, leadership, anthropology, and music. And he can download Prisoner Exchange. So, it's very fitting.
Oh, nice. Music, I get it.
Yeah. Honestly, I didn't at first, and I was like, oh man, is this like some behind-the-scenes info that Yelgren is like plays the flute in his spare time or something? And I was like, oh, no, because of Iggy. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Right. Haven't we learned that Vorta are tone deaf?
I think we did, yeah. That or are they colorblind?
They have bad eyes.
They have, yeah.
And no sense of aesthetics.
Yeah, okay.
I swear we've heard they're tone deaf at some point also.
I think he was like, sometimes I think it would be nice to be able to carry a tune or something.
Oh,
like
maybe
that,
that's
right?
what I was thinking. Yeah. So I guess Yelgren has a rare gift.
Yeah, he may be the Vorta rock star.
Like that one Vorta could shoot magical energy balls. He can play guitar, and he has a little band with some of his Jim'Hadar buddies.
They died in this episode though, so he's got to find like a new bass player.
Yes. That was my keyboard player. What are you doing? Review time. What do you think of the Magnificent Ferengi?
You know what? It's weird because we've nitpicked a few things on this, but it's just it's kind of so wacky that it's hard to find fault with it because it's like one of those episodes that where it was all a hallucination, so you can write off any weird inconsistencies because it was a hallucination or whatever. It's just like all of this was crazy, and so if like something in the plot was weird, well, you can write it off because the Ferengi were doing some weird stuff, right? So it's hard for me to nitpick much, and it's a lot of fun. This episode is just almost from beginning to end. I don't know that the open where Quark is bragging about his squill, I don't really care about it that much, but beyond that, like, the whole episode is fun, even when it's like nonsense fun. Like when they get into Sisko's office for some reason and then have to back down the tubes, and Sisko has that weird moment of like, what the hell just happened? Like, it's completely unnecessary. It's completely like apropos of nothing, but it's fun. That's just kind of the episode on the whole. It's not giving us anything important. It's not it's not contributing much to the overall story of anything, but it's a fun episode. So this is definitely a commander for me. This is another one kind of like last week that I'm like, I would watch this episode a bunch of times.
Oh, sure. Yeah. You're right. Everything about it is totally absurd, but I don't know, something about this is less noticeable than a lot of previous, or to me, than previous Ferengi episodes where, Quark becomes the Nagus, or, Moogie is dating the Nagus, or, and Brunt keeps beaming into the closet and stuff.
It may be that, for the most part, it's kind of like an Avengers thing almost, where these are all characters that we've established, and then we stick them together, and they're all remaining true to what we've established in the past, but in their interactions in this episode, it's a little bit, it gets kind of wacky and different, so maybe that contributes to that.
Yeah, it has just almost like kind of like a, I don't want to say like a Big Lebowski feel, where it's so dumb that almost is what makes it plausible, is these people just kind of like stumbling around and this stuff happens, and I don't know. I feel like it doesn't really stick the landing as a Ferengi Western, because I think it kind of keeps forgetting that conceit, but in a good way, where it keeps veering off into these weird, like, absurd tangents and stuff. So yeah, it's really fun. I really wish Zek would have been one of the Magnificent Ferengi.
Yeah.
But the guests are great. Everybody, Jeffrey Combs, obviously. Cousin Gala, fun. Lek, that guy's great.
Yeah.
So Moogie, always happy to see. So yeah, I'll also give it a commander. It's just, fun episodes, Ferengi episodes. They don't always work. I think this one, it works pretty well. It clicks pretty well. So as for the title, The Magnificent Ferengi, which is totally not a reference to a classic movie.
So the note on the title is, this is the second episode of the series whose title is an homage to a classic film starring James Coburn. The first being Our Man Bashir.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. For whatever that's
bravo,
worth.
Ira. I guess it's not a bad title. I mean, it's 100% memorable.
Yes, absolutely. Like, what episode this is, 100%.
Right. Like I said, I just feel the whole Western thing, it kind of like wanders in and out of that, but
yeah, you're right. It's just got like bits and pieces of that Western. Like, sometimes they hit it real hard, like that scene where the three of them walk out onto the promenade, and you could practically like hear the musical sting and the tumbleweeds of like a Western thing where they're about to have the duel at high noon or whatever, and then
right.
But a lot of it is not that. It almost feels like you could have gone for like an Ocean's 11 thing, and it would have fit better than trying to like shoehorn a Western thing.
Honestly, if the title wasn't Magnificent Ferengi, I would not have picked up on any Western stuff at all, probably. Unless maybe I noticed that it was written by Ira Stephen Bear. But in that way, the title might actually contribute to the episode. So.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, it puts you in that mind state frame, yeah.
So, I don't know. I guess overall pretty good, I guess. Well,
yeah. I think it's
at least they're doing something they don't often do, which is just like straight up, I guess with the case of Our Man Bashir also, but just straight up saying like what they're going for, except apparently they weren't really going for it. So,
yeah, right.
Don't know what's going on. I mean, it was apparently so obvious to like Armin Shimmerman and Max Rodenchik that they went out and like watched that movie or whatever. But
yeah, they're like, let's go watch Magnificent Seven and the Seven Samurai. That way we'll be ready for this. And then the writer's like, what are you talking about?
It's all Magnificent Seven. No, it's called the Magnificent Ferengi.
Yeah, I see the confusion, and there's only 6 of you, so.
Right. Where would you get that from? I was just saying, this group of Ferengi is so magnificent. Like, I call it the Magnificent Ferengi.
I think Moogie is the 7th one, right? So.
Oh, yeah. So anyway, unless you have any further thoughts, final thoughts, that is our discussion of the Magnificent Ferengi. Thank you for listening. If you liked that one, maybe you'll like our discussion of Little Green Men, another great Ferengi episode. Another great Ferengi episode with just a really absurd premise, too, so.
Yeah. Up till that point, Star Trek had never gone quite that wacky, right. I think, with let's do Area 51. But yeah.
But you can find that, any other past episodes, maybe future episodes if you're listening in the future, wherever you're listening to this. But if you want to leave us a comment, you got to do that on YouTube if you want us to see it. You can leave a comment anywhere you want. But if you want us to see it, you gotta leave it on YouTube. Because there's just too much stuff out. Our podcast has infiltrated all kinds of weird, like, dark corners of the internet.
On the dark web? Oh my gosh.
Right. So, anyway. My name is Fletcher, about to say goodbye as Data.
Adios.
We look forward to seeing you next week. But remember, do I want to come up with something new? No, I'll just say, as always, you honor us with your presence.